Hi, Sasha here from Casually Comics, and the Flatline saga continues. I have to admit, I didn't actually expect to get an answer to this. I thought it was just gonna be one of those mysteries that you just have to ponder on your deathbed. Why did that video get age restricted? Because that's gonna be the random thoughts, right? But I did get an answer, sort of, and let me just tell you about it. And this is just a continuation of a little behind the scenes thing that's been going on the channel that I did start talking about, so I felt it was prudent to share the conclusion for those of you who were interested. You know, can't just start it and leave it hanging. I was planning on making a video if it was never gonna be resolved, just I guess we'll never know, but then I thought I'd wait, because you know, sometimes these things can be very slow, and then lo and behold. So let me set the stage for if this is your first time hearing about it. So I released a video a while back on Flatline, a new character who debuted in Batman but was used primarily in Damian Wayne's Robin solo series. I don't know why I said Robin like that. So I uploaded that video and it was up for 7 days. 7 days. And then it was abruptly age restricted at 2:17 in the morning with no explanation. I read the emails there, so I will insert them here. This is what the email said. We have reviewed your content, who doesn't say, person, bot, probably a bot, and have determined that may not be suitable for viewers under the age of 18 per our community guidelines. Which guidelines? So of course I went and appealed it because I felt it was unjust, and I still do. And then I, in 6 minutes, got a reply saying that it was thoroughly reviewed, which I will debunk in this video. At that point, I posted a community post about how I thought it was pretty ridiculous. And one of the commenters stated that what I should do is I should take to Twitter, because that's where you go to get your YouTube problem solved. And I realized that that's actually sadly pretty accurate. It can be very hard to get a hold of somebody on YouTube. So I had to find my Twitter password, log in, because yeah, that's how often I log in. And then I tweeted, I'm sorry, I'm shuddering about it. But I did tweet out to the team. I did get a response where they told me to read the guidelines. I said that I had read the guidelines, I was familiar with them. What I was looking for was a proper review of the video and an explanation as to what had happened inside of the video. A full review, because they had reviewed it within 6 minutes on a 16-minute video. So there's no way. So one of the things some of you said was, well, maybe the thing that happened was in the first 6 minutes. We're gonna get to why that doesn't matter even if it was. So this back and forth happens and they come back with, we've DM'd you. So at this point they move the conversation out of the actual public sphere and into the private sphere. And I actually didn't notice this at first because despite the fact that I've made now 2 videos on it, this is not that huge of a part of my day-to-day life, and I don't check Twitter. I just don't. It's not a platform that I use. So they had actually replied to me for a whole day before I realized, and then in my spam folder, because that's where most of my Twitter notifications end up, was oh, there's a Twitter notification. I was like, oh, I guess I should go there and read that. So I went and I read it. And it was the exact same answer. Go and read the guidelines. If I am to avoid this in the future, I need to know what exactly the problem was. So I would very much appreciate a concrete time code or explanation. The policy team is the final decision here, and they've confirmed the result in your vid. If you have questions about the reason, you can go over the resource that we previously stated. So no then, and no proper explanation. Got it. Thank you for your time. They got a little salty. We're always here if you need anything else. I feel like they outsalted me. I was outsalted. Maybe it was meant to be nice, but I didn't read it that way. Basically, there's not gonna be an answer. We're not telling you. It's so obvious that you should just know. Why don't you know? Are you too dumb? Go educate yourself. It's in the guidelines, which my follow-up to that is, even if it's the most obvious thing in the world, and I'm just extremely obtuse, for some reason I just am missing it. I'm not seeing it. Well, then it should be very easy to direct me to the time code and exactly what part of it it's violating. Why is that so difficult? If it's just something that's flagged down there, then why not? Well, it's about to become clear. I had been talking to my YouTube rep behind the scenes about it, and she replied and said that she would try and reach out and see if she could find out anything. I was like, okay, cool. But I didn't expect her to be able to get anything. So I went about my life just accepting that this was going to be the end of it. I would never know. What has been learned? Nothing, because I don't know what happened. That's part of the problem with these restrictions though, and that's why you have people who jump through hoops to not say certain words or censor certain things because they don't know, because they don't tell you. On November 1st, my rep said she's checking it out. She has an answer on November 7th, which, you know, for YouTube time is pretty fast, I have to say. They have, not many people know this, they have a very strong non-hierarchical structure going on over there, which means there's a lot of confusion. The departments aren't very well attached. Years ago when I worked on another channel, I had to liaise with the rep. Sometimes you would bring up stuff and they wouldn't even know that it was a rule that had changed, because that's what happens when you have a pod structure versus a hierarchical one. Not all the news travels to all the sections, and that can make communication very, very difficult. So communication is already spotty inside the organization itself, and then so they get coherent communication out to everybody. It's an extra hard route.
Oh, it's so fun to work here. We don't have those traditional fuddy-duddy rules like your dad. There's a slide in the room. Also, because of that, we have no clear leadership structure and nobody knows what's happening. It's fine.
So with all of that said, are you ready? So some of you had so many theories, and one of them was starting to win me over. Most of you, I would say, the predominant theory was that it was Damian with the heart out of his chest. You were like, you didn't agree with it. Well, some of you did, but most of you didn't agree with it and felt that, but okay, this could be something that like a bot or a person can feel is too far. This is 18 plus. This is hide your kids. This is sneaking into the theater, R-rated. This is beyond the pale. Enough people were starting to say that. I was like, well, maybe. But there were some other interesting theories as well. Some people felt that it was the title. They felt it sounded a bit risque, which surprised me. I don't think it does, but apparently goth girlfriend has some connotations in certain search engines. Apparently I'm not searching the right thing. Also, some people felt that it was just her name, Flatline, because that can be associated with death and certain medical procedures, whereas in this case it's obviously meant to be a supervillain name. But some felt a bot would not be able to discern that, or that somebody reviewing it could be hypersensitive about it. There were other theories that maybe it was the word foreplay, because that was used, even if it was a joke, but that the characters were teenagers, and so some would feel that was too much. Pearl clutching kind of stuff, basically. Some thought that it was the skull design on her face. Some felt that it was just a culmination, like too many of certain words used overall in a video that then sent it careening over the edge. We had some people who pitched that maybe it was the automatic subtitles. Maybe they put something in there that was inaccurate, because that can happen. If the subtitle spells something wrong and it's inappropriate, you get flagged for it. It doesn't matter that the computer did it. The computer's not getting flagged for it. So we had some good, solid theories. So with all of that said, drum roll please. Firstly, to get this done, my rep had to reach out to an operations manager, who then had to reach out to the policy team, who are like this shrouded secret team. This is a trickle-down report because it's just pretty much impossible to talk to the policy team directly. So here's what we got. 2 people, 3 people if you count me, had to go through to get this. We sent in a further appeal on your behalf, which I didn't ask them to do. I just asked them to find out why. Upon further review, it was determined that the content was restricted, as it is not appropriate for viewers under 18 for educational content that includes violence. This context must appear in the images or audio of the video itself. What does that mean? What does that mean? You will note here that there is still no time code. There's still no, this is what you did, here is where you did it. What's wrong with you? It's bad and you should feel bad. There's still none of that. There is this vague, for educational content. My videos are classified as entertainment, not as education. So already, I'm not sure where that is coming from. What has been flagged as being out of context violence is also not clear. So we don't know what that is. Is it the heart ripping out? It could be, but if that's the case, the context was provided, because the context is that it's an explanation of the evolution of the character and her relationship with Robin. So this is the first time they meet, this is the first action that is taken, and it's fundamental to their relationship. That's the context of showing it, and it's audibly stated, which it says that it needs to be, so that would have been there. If it's something else, like is it the Mortal Kombat fatality joke that I put over? So if it is that, when you do that, are you supposed to put a little blurb on the screen that says Mortal Kombat was a video game series from insert years that was influential in cementing some of these fighting on island pop culture tournaments in the public eye, and that's why this image is here for the lulz? Is that the kind of thing that they're talking about? Because basically they're saying that somebody watched this over and didn't understand the context. So there's several things there. For one thing, this confirms that the first review was not thorough. And in fact, the Twitter review already proved that, because when they sent it on upwards, it took them over a day to get a response back to me. So it took them a lot longer to review the video that time. And this time, kicking it all the way up to the policy team itself, it took even longer. So now I know that that first review was not anything. It was not, no, that wasn't a proper review. Also, let's say that it was a time code that was flagged. Let's say whatever happens is happening within the first 6 minutes. If it's a context flag, you couldn't possibly go just to the time code and then say, okay, yeah, doesn't make sense. What if the context is provided in the entirety of the video or comes later on? You would have to watch the whole thing. So it's not a thorough review. So update your message. We glanced at it. That's what it should say. We had the bot glance at it again, and we confirmed we did nothing wrong. The other thing is that there's a lot of push for more human reviewers at YouTube, which I understand, even though they could not possibly hire enough humans to peruse all of the content that is uploaded and flagged or caught by the AI or anything like that. There's just too many people. The other thing is that context can be very specific. Context can be cultural, it can be generational, it can be subcultural. For example, if I was asked to review a video about, let's say, heavy metal culture, which I don't know much about, and there was a joke inside of it that had been flagged, perhaps the heavy metal subculture, this is entirely obvious, and the context of what it is quite clear. But to me, someone coming in outside of it, it doesn't make sense, or it reads as odd. So then there's my lack of understanding of the context that is actually present in the video, but that I just don't have because I'm not part of that subculture. Does that justify the flagging? That's a serious question. This is a philosophical question for me now. I want to know, what do you think? Does it count, or do you need to constantly be going around explaining this is part of this, and in this word means this? When you say bussy, it means like that kind of thing. Is that what you have to be doing? That was an example of whether or not something is in or out of context. For context. Can you imagine having to do an entire video like that? My word. See how people can get paranoid though? If you took that on and you were like, oh my gosh, I need to modify all my content. Can you imagine how pedantic that would be? So basically, there's no answer. There is no answer. So I'm still not gonna get an answer. There's no clear this was that. You could infer maybe it's that. Is it the overall violence of the tournament itself and that's happening? Because again, the context of that is that it is the plot of the series where these characters exist. Is it the showing of some of the covers? Because the context of that is that it's examples of the series where this character exists. So I'm not seeing the lack of context unless one is being incredibly disingenuous and pedantic. And that is one of the things that I wrote back. I wrote back, firstly, thank you. A huge thank you, because she went above and beyond. She did not have to spend her time doing this and getting me any kind of answer. So very much appreciated to her and the person she kicked it up to. But I still said, it still doesn't make sense, but I told her, don't worry about it. Firstly, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't. I'm not the only creator this has happened to. This happens all the time. Let it lie. And obviously, I just ran afoul of the wrong person on the wrong day. That's what I'm taking from this. I'm not gonna start living in an environment of fear, worrying about what I say or worrying so much about which images I show. I'm confident in knowing what can and can't be restricted. When I feel things need censoring, I censor them. When I don't, I don't. And if I'm wrong, then it shouldn't be hard to tell me exactly why I am. And I don't see why there's such stubbornness about just giving me a proper time code. Because I've seen some videos where people have to go and they re-edit everything because they have no idea what it actually is. And I don't want that stress. I don't want that headache. I'll live life on the edge. So for those of you who thought it was the heart ripping out, maybe you're right. Maybe. But if you are right, would you ever have believed that it's not because there's a gaping hole in someone's chest, but because of the context? Now, for me showing this image, let me give some context, YouTube. I'm showing an example of an image that potentially exists in a video without context, but here it is with context. You're welcome. I'm so salty about this. Not really. I really just wanted to update you as to what happened. This is what happened. And also, this is just a bit of a glimpse into the behind the scenes of what it's like to make YouTube content and end up having to deal with the YouTube system. It's not clear. You don't know. They don't tell you things. You can be following the rules to the letter, and then you can get something like this that says the context was wrong for your educational video. I don't know, should I be flattered that they consider my videos educational? I don't know. That is the end of the saga. It is over. This chapter is closed. That is the Flatline saga. It's definitely not gonna put me off covering the character or anything that I wanna cover. I just can't believe that I got an answer and it still wasn't a full answer. But yeah, let me know what you think down below. Are you still committed to your theory? I want to hear from you. That's the end. I'm sorry if it was anticlimactic. I will see you again soon with more comic book videos. Definitely chock full of context. All right, I'll see y'all soon. Bye.